Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Christian Spiritual Ministries. Welcome to our online service and our short chat that we've been having quite regularly. We're very grateful to have with us once again our Vice President of Christian Spiritual Ministries, our Dean of Studies for the Institute of Spiritual Studies, and our co-pastor for the Burlington Temple. Thank you for joining us, Reverend Howard.
It's my pleasure to be here, Walter, once again. Thank you for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure, Orland, and very much enjoy our chats. And thank you again for joining us once again. And this time to talk on, and we when we talked about this before we got started, we had a quite a long discussion. So we're going to try and condense it as we talk together right now, just in respect of your time. We were talking about diligence and this understanding, and I think for us, we kind of went into two directions, which is this understanding of why diligence, like what it yields, and how diligence, like what is it? And I think Proverbs 21:5 was a great leaping off point. And for those who joined us for the service that was aired on Saturday morning, and it's live on our YouTube channel, and you might want to check it out. It goes into diligence in great detail, moves through the book of Proverbs from many of our speakers, from Reverend Ellen Stoddard, our moderator, and Reverend Orland Howard here, our vice president. I encourage you to look it up and follow that service. At the end of this short chat, you'll find a tile that'll take you there, and so you'll be able to do that if you haven't seen it already. Proverbs 21:5. We didn't share it in the service, but it offers this in the and I'll just read this, Orland. The Amplified version says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance and advantage, but everyone who acts in haste comes surely to poverty." And so there's some certainty expressed there about the diligent and abundance, and the hasteful and poverty. And maybe that's our starting point. Any thoughts to get us going?
Well, let's start with hasteful then.
Okay.
Because that seems to be our first reaction.
Yeah. And, to life, you mean, in general.
And haste, well, haste is usually, you can assign that to or attach it to emotions. And we tend to act with emotion first and foremost.
Right.
Or react. And it's a double-edged sword, because it can bring us more concerns. And the other side is, if we act in haste, but what are we attaching to that haste? We can say we're acting quickly, or quickly with wisdom. And there's a difference there with acting in haste in a reckless way and a responsible way. And so part of actually our steps to our daily walk, responsibility, is part of diligence that we've subtitled. And so where does that lead us? Well, it leads us to better results. Which result do we want? Do we want the reckless result, or the result that brings us more satisfaction in what we're trying to do? And it's interesting, because Christ said, talks of a place where we can live life more abundantly.
Right.
And obviously that doesn't seem to be here, but is that correct? Because we can still live life abundantly while we're here if we keep in mind the teachings of Christ. We have less worry if we know where our root is. We understand a little more of this world and our divine origin, and live our life according to those teachings. And so that is the abundance that we seek, the wisdom side of living in haste and hasten towards acquiring more knowledge
Right.
of Christ and God in our relationship, and be diligent in that striving. Excuse me.
Your use of words there. Yeah. No, go ahead.
That brings us to being to be in a state of steady mindfulness of our surroundings, everything that we are, and our goals, and how we go about them. I mean, we can become rich in many ways, but what are we doing to get rich? Are we making someone else miserable so that we can be happy? Are we making someone else disadvantaged somehow? And even withholding the truth is putting someone at a disadvantage. And that's not what God is all about. God brings truth to us so that we might be set free.
Right.
And free from the misconceptions of this world.
That's right.
And you might want to add ourselves to that, free from ourselves, because we're not going anywhere in that sense, but free from our old habits, what we believe to be true today that is incorrect and doesn't bring us that truth. And that's why we refer to God as the God of spirit and truth, the God of all truth and knowledge. And how can you compare that to what people were worshiping in earlier days or even today? You know, most people that are not thinking about God, or they don't practice a faith in any way, they may practice a philosophy of kindness in that, but they live on both sides of the line, you might say.
Right.
And that's not what it's about. You can't serve God and mammon. And so we have to walk that line and lean towards the side of right, the side of light and right. And not only think of ourselves, but what footprint are we leaving in a personal way?
Right. Yeah.
So it's a lot of things to think about, and you have to be mindful continually to be the best you can be.
Very powerful. And I like your play on words, the idea of haste. And then you said, well, hasten to God. And this shift of where is your urgency, right? Like often we're urgent for a material result. And so we're quick to act to get that result. And as you suggest, right, if our wealth, the quick path to wealth sometimes looks like a somewhat crooked path, right? We're gonna cheat, we're gonna lie, we're gonna find our way there. The slow path to wealth, which is the lasting wealth, is one of love and blessing and honesty. And as you bless others, so are you rewarded. And sometimes if our haste, right, hasten to God, if our urgency is to be in relationship with God and in relationship with one another, as Jesus told us to be, through love, then our choices, our actions will be thoughtful, mindful, careful, kind, right? And they'll be genuine, as opposed to this quick fix. We'll be looking for the lasting solution, because after all, we are everlasting. And so the everlasting solution is the right one, right? Not the quick fix. So I do love your wordplay in changing, in a way, what we mean by haste. What is urgent to us? If our relationship with God is the urgent part of our living, then everything else falls into its proper context and timing. Because as Jesus said, put God first, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, all else will be added unto us after that. And so it's not a denial and you could think of it as a delay, but it's more about a perspective. And I love your use of mindful, and maybe we can segue into what it is that we should be mindful of. So if that's the truth, seek God first. God's your priority, your urgency. And so mindful of what is it that is diligence? How do we do it?
We make sure we reach out to God.
Right.
We don't remain stagnant or dormant in our efforts to leave all those exercises, those physical exercises, like bending a knee and praying once in a while.
Yeah,
that's a physical exercise towards spirit, and to be aware of how we treat one another. And if all these things were so important to us in the material world, why would there be a need to have someone come and tell us that we're on the wrong path?
Right.
So the bare fact that God has reached out to us, the Christ child has come, even though we've had many prophets, the Christ child still came to complete that outreach.
That's right.
Well, are we to do nothing after that? No, we have to live by those words. We have to put them into action. We have to use the knowledge and the truth that has been brought to us, live by the truth that Christ taught. It's amazing how so much can be set aside because we put the material first.
Yes.
And what does it mean to have all else will be added to you? Well, it may be only things that you need that are added to you. That doesn't mean we're all going to receive the moon. You know, I've spoken to a number of people who have different philosophies or ideas on things being brought to them, even by God. And I said, okay, well, if there's one moon, who gets it? You know, if you ask for the moon, who is deserving of it? Which person gets the moon? So it's what we need. You know, what is it that we truly need? When you think about it, we don't really need very much. You know, we need a place to live. We need food. We need compassion in our lives. We need certain things that are generated by society, and it's only because society grows, and all these inventions are the only way to deal with the growth in population. To have a vehicle, to have a house or a place to live, when you could in old days build one yourself. To have a vehicle to travel from one place to another quicker, when most things, when you look at it, were in your scope of walking. I mean, how often do we hear about villagers traveling, and they go village to village? But I mean, obviously it's better if it's quicker. It's part of our creativity that we have.
Right.
And but we cannot, through all that we have materially, do you really want to sacrifice knowledge of God and knowledge and truth? That's not what God's all about. So God's only going to give you what is not going to distract you from the truth. And as you grow into that truth, because we're still in the material, then things can be added to you as you can suffer them, you might say.
Right. Yeah.
So that your haste towards divine spirit isn't decreased or dampened.
Right.
You can come more relaxed with, okay, I'm doing this, I'm working on my spirituality, I understand spiritually a little more, things that I read, things that I see,
Right.
things that I feel, and that connectiveness with divine spirit. And you understand a little more, or in more ways, scripture or the words that Christ spoke.
Right.
And and if God is giving us that true prize of truth and everlasting life, why would God allow anything else to get in the way?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's how we look at things. If
Yeah.
we look at it through, if we look at things through a spiritual lens and a godly lens,
Mhm.
the lens of Christ's teaching, then you see the world differently. And as you mentioned before, our priorities change. What are we hastening to?
Right.
I know it's a recurring theme that always comes up, no matter what angle you speak about spirit and our spirituality, because it's a daily thing that we face,
Right.
and so we have to be ever mindful to that.
And I like that you draw us back to what's in our minds. So you've taken us through so much, Roland. Diligence as a behavior, right?
Mm.
Right, manifests itself as being careful, hardworking, right? You're honestly trying to do everything right. You're not trying to cut corners. But you've hit on what I think is so scripturally sound, because it takes us back to the Latin of the word, which means to value highly, right? To take delight in, even. And so it's as you say, it's in the mind, right? It's a mindset. It's being mindful of where your values lie. And you said it, that quoting Christ, of course, that you can't serve both God and mammon. Where your treasure is, your heart will be also, right? Right out of that passage where Christ speaks and it explains the importance of the eye being single, focused on God, so that therein is your treasure. And then out of your treasure, all the issues of your life, everything else flows out of that. And so we treasure our relationship with God first, above all else. We seek it, we pursue it, we hasten towards it, we diligently, and therein we find a joyful pursuit, because it's what we value, it's what we delight in. Would that be a fair way of bringing in that concept of what's in our mind? How is our mind set, right? What's it set on, and what's its focus? What do we value? What are we being mindful? What are we paying attention to? Is that yeah?
Absolutely. And how are we putting that in play? What are we actually doing about it? And nurturing that higher virtues of ourselves, as well as others, by example. And do you really want to sacrifice paradise with an upside down value system, or misguided value system?
Right.
Once you know and understand and accept the teachings of Christ, you believe,
Yeah.
then there's a piece that I will borrow, because it's something down the road. There's no turning back.
That's right.
Like, why would you want to return to a state of confusion?
That's right. That's right.
And untruth and misguidedness. And you have it, and you just live it. You put it in your life, and make it part of who you are, because that's exactly who you are. It belongs with you.
That's right. That's right. Ever growing, ever reaching, ever drawing closer to the divine. That there's this open invitation and opportunity to remind yourself again and again of how sacred and special you really are. That's amazing. Orland, thank you so much for all that you've shared and the time that you've given us. I don't know if there's any last thought that you'd like to pass on to our viewers and listeners out there.
Just try to say something nice today. Anytime. Even a smile to someone that you don't even know. There's a nice little energy there, and you can feel it when even a stranger walks by, but your eyes meet and you say hello. That happens to everyone, and we just a little more of that would be great.
That's so simple but so powerful.
Yes.
And I'll try to do that myself to make sure that the next people that I encounter as I move out in the world today, I'll smile at and be sure to be a blessing unto. What a great thing to be diligent, to be careful and hardworking to accomplish. I appreciate that so much. Thank you again, Orland. Thank you, Reverend Howard. Your time is most appreciated.
Thank you for having me, Walter. I appreciate all that you do here.
My pleasure. And to you, dear listener, dear viewer, thank you. We hope that you've been blessed, and that you continue to be blessed as you go forth and know that you are loved by God in all that you do and wherever you go. May that love guide and direct your life. God bless you.
God bless.